This gentleman in the middle.
السلام عليكم فخامة الرئيس. سؤالي هو متعلق بالفدرالية. الفدرالية يعني هل تعتقد أن الفدرالية أحسن للمجتمع الصومالي الذي الآن يبدأ أن يستيقظ من الدمار والحروب الأهلية، وهل ترى أن الفدرالية ستعيد المجتمع الصومالي إلى الحروب الأهلية؟ شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you. Very good. I think the issue of federalism in Somalia, it's not me who decides whether Somalia becomes a federal or not federal. There are two important issues that had happened in the past. One is there is a political understanding to make Somalia a federal state. It's a political understanding in the past, before I came to the office. Another important and crucial aspect is the constitution we have today. It indicates that Somalia must be a federal state. So it's not me who decides, it's already decided. But the question is the process we go through. One thing is very important. There are a couple of issues that the Somalis does not disagree. Do we become federal or not? There is no disagreement. We are going to become a federal state in Somalia, to establish a federal state in Somalia, and the mandate of my government is to federate the country. So there is no disagreement on that. The issue of how do we become a federal? What is the process we go through? What type of federal are we going to take? This is subject to discussion, and it depends on the Somali people, whichever will. My government will work on that and will provide the Somali people an opportunity to opt. We have a parliament. Our constitution clearly indicates, for example, one of the key issues that is in place is how many federal states that Somalia will have. There are people who say 2, Somaliland, the rest of Somalia. There are people who claim 3, Somaliland, Puntland, and the rest. And there are people who claim no more than that, 5, 6 states. This is something that the Somali people has to dialogue, has to discuss. The constitution clearly indicates the Somali parliament decides how many federal states that we will have through mechanisms that the constitution clearly indicates. So the issue is the process of federating the country. How do we, what type of federalism? But the issue of, and it's not me, I don't have that power to decide whether Somalia will become a federal or not federal. Thank you.
This gentleman.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شكرا السيد الرئيس. سؤالي هو هذه الأيام كانت فيه انتخابات رئاسية في كينيا، ويبدو أن مرشح الأحزاب الحاكمة هو الذي فاز. ومن 6 أشهر أيضا توفي الرئيس الإثيوبي ميليس زيناوي وجاءت قيادة جديدة. هذا التحول في إثيوبيا وهذه الاستمرارية في كينيا ما هو تأثيرها عليكم أنتم في حكومة الصومال، وما هي قراءتك لعلاقاتك المستقبل مع هاتين الدولتين المؤثرتين جدا في الصومال؟ شكرا.
Thank you. The region we are living, the Horn of Africa, is a very complex region. It has a complex history in the past. Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya, there are 3 countries, and Djibouti, there are 4 countries that are interlinked to each other. A major portion of the population in Ethiopia and in Kenya are Somali ethnic groups. And traditionally, Somalis, we are a nomadic society who moves from here and there, crossing the border at different seasons of the year. So by that nature, so many things of our statehood is interlinked. Our security is interlinked. Our economy is interlinked. Our social stability is interlinked. So we as a Somali government, there is no any other option other than to have a very good relationship, working relationship, to have institutions in place that work together. And recently, when I make a trip to these 3 countries, Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Kenya, met with their leadership, we agreed that we put a mechanism in place whereby we address those common challenges and common issues we have. We have an agreement with Ethiopia and Kenya, whereby we establish a joint cooperation commission at a ministerial level, where we will be addressing the issue of security, which is a very pertinent issue right now. This interministerial JCC, Joint Cooperation Commission, will address the security, the trade, the economic cooperation, the interlinking infrastructure, and so many other issues. So it is the status that we are dealing. Leadership changes. As he rightly said, today Meles Zenawi is not the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And maybe soon we will have a new president in Kenya. And this is a trend. It started from Somalia. There's a new president in Somalia, and of course a new Prime Minister in Ethiopia, and soon there will be a new president in Kenya. But the need is still there. The challenges are there, regardless of the new leadership. So the new leadership has no choice but to deal with the realities that are existing already. We established it with that, and we hope that in the near future we'll also be improving this relationship. The faith and the future of these countries are interlinked, and we Somalis, we are ready to contribute those important and pertinent issues of the faith of these 2 countries, regardless of the past history. Thank you.
Please, over there.
Thank you, Mr. President. Somalia is known as a corrupted country, one of the most corrupted nations on earth. You've been asking the international community to help you, and obvious reason is because Somalia is corrupted. That's why the help is not coming. So what did you have done to make sure that the corruption is dealt in your administration?
Thank you. One can argue whether Somalia is the most corrupted country in the world or not. A country that has no institutions, functioning institutions in place. How can one measure the level of corruption in a country there are no institutions at all? So we are not going to that philosophical argument, but that has been said, and many of the international community, many of our people even do believe that there is a corruption in place. As a that, the top 3 priorities in my government, one of them is reforming the public finance institutions, the Minister of Finance, the Central Bank, the Accountant General, the Audit General, what we call it, the integrity institutions of the state. We are reforming these institutions, and we made the top priority to reform these institutions so that this name that has been branded with Somalia will not be anymore. We are open to the rest of the world. We're sharing our information with the world. We are engaging the international institutions like the World Bank, who already engaged with our Minister of Finance, working with them. We engaged the African Development Bank. So we are open. We want to come up with institutions that are, number 1, effective and accurate and very, very transparent. So we are fighting with that name of Somalia being a corrupted country. You're right, that's according to the Transparency International Index. Somalia is one of the most corrupted countries in the world. But soon, we hope Somalia will be moving up in the ladder, and we will be somewhere. And below that, Somalia, many existing countries and functioning countries will be below Somalia in the near future. Most probably in the next Transparency International report, inshallah.
Yes, please, here in the middle.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to ask you regarding one of the pillars of your reformation or foundation, as you mentioned in your lecture, is the justice. But as we all know and as you all agree, the crime and the right doesn't fall by age or by oldness. So, and our topic of today is the complicity and the problem of Somalia. But we know those who caused are now freely and living their lives in ordinary way. And all Somalis, which I am one of the Somali citizens, we know their names, I mean the warlords. When we are going to take them to prosecution, or how your government is planning to set the real judiciary system where those criminals will be taken to the justice. That's question number one. Second question is, you talked about international community. As we all know, and I don't want to describe, and everyone knows here, that there is double standard of, we can say even thrice standards in the international community. We are talking about the regional hot issues which is going on, like in our brotherhood, what is happening in Palestine, what is happening in Syria, what is happening everywhere. Somali issue was easy to solve at the beginning, 1991, when the central government president, Mr. Mohamed Siad Barre, was toppled, and his government was toppled from the ruling. It was easy to catch, but there was ignorance, neglection to the issue of Somalia, where all people was looking, and now they are claiming that we are ready to help our brothers of Somali. This is, you know, it's a nonsense.
Okay,
it's a nonsense.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So his first question was on accountability. And,
If you give me a
question-
time, I want to talk about the piracy. Piracy.
Just briefly, please, because we have a lot of people to get through.
Okay. Thank you very much. The piracy, all the media, including Al Jazeera, are talking about the piracy. I am against the piracy. But what about the piracy of the overseas companies who are taking and stealing the resource and the food of the poor Somali families? They are stealing our fish. They are stealing our fish, our rights, and nobody is talking about this. We don't believe the game which is going on where the NATO, I will not be a diplomatic. I will say the words as it is, okay? So please, you understand me. We don't believe that NATO ships, fleets, USA, European, China, all this cannot solve the issue of piracy. This is a game. So I want to ask you, Mr. President, do you think it's a wisdom to rely on such so-called international community? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so a lot of issues there that have been brought up. Let's just tackle the first one to begin with, and that's the issue of accountability and justice. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I started with my speech that if we try to list the problems in Somalia, that list becomes endless. It's too long. So, and what we need to understand few basic things. Let me go first to the justice. Yes, we cannot expect that there is a justice system in a place like Somalia where there have been more than 2 decades of anarchy and conflict and statelessness. But now, I would like to focus more in the future than in the past. In the past, we learn what has happened, but we plan the future. For the future, the reform of the judiciary system in Somalia is among the 3 top priority areas we are focusing right now. And that process, it goes process. It cannot happen today. Justice is not only having physical things like courts in place or people like judges in place. Justice involves so many things. So we're working on that. There are teams, Somalis, who are actively engaged and working on the reform of the judiciary system in Somalia. In the next 2 weeks, there will be a conference, the first national conference in Somalia, whereby judiciary subject will be discussed, attended by lawyers, legal experts, attended by religious scholars, traditional elders, civil society people. And the government of Somalia will present the reform program on the table. It will be discussed, and we want this reform to become through that process. Why we want that? We want the Somali people to own the judiciary system. It's not enough that the government declares Judge X and Judge Y is there, and then it will continue like that. Our people, they lost the faith, the confidence, the trust on the judiciary system right now. We want to bring back that trust first and foremost. Laws are there. Somalia was not born today. We were a country, we have been running that country through state institutions for a long time. We have more expertise and more knowledgeable people than 20 years ago or 30 years ago today. But still we don't have a reliable, trustworthy justice system. What's very important today is to make the people believe their justice system. Today we have weaknesses, institutional weaknesses, capacity of the people, everything. But we can have money and we can hire the best lawyers. But if the people, the citizens, does not believe the justice system, it will not be a good justice system. So we are working on that 2 tracks, making the people believe the justice system and establishing the right justice system. We are going to consolidate, amalgamate 3 systems in place today in Somalia. We have the legal system that was there for 30 years of our governance. We have the Sharia, who has been our national the parliament has decided that it will be the base of all laws in Somalia. And we have the traditional law, whereby the rural area, the remote area, it's valid, and today even in the urban areas, it is valid. So amalgamating the 3 and making them one judiciary system, justice system, is the challenge now we are facing, and we are working on it, bringing these different people together, presenting them the process of reform, and giving them to dialogue on those issues is very important. So we don't have a reliable justice system right now, and it's not the justice system. All Somali institutions are weak, and we are building them, and it's a matter of time and effort that we will get that. The issue of double standards, one has to be very clear on this issue. The world is a world of interests. People get together for interests. If one cannot protect his own interests, very difficult to others to protect for him, because they may have interests that are against the protection of your interest. So it's our responsibility, we Somalis, this is our country. Few minutes back I was saying Somalia belongs to the Somalis. Its problems also belongs to the Somalis. It's we Somalis, until we reach a stage where we sit together, dialogue among us, agree among us, then we can talk to the rest of the world. We can say, no, sorry, you are violating me, stop there. But we lost our state. We cannot control our territorial waters, we cannot control our air, we cannot control our borders. So it's natural to be violated, because their protection is against the interests of someone else who's pursuing an interest. So our option is not blaming the world and the international community. Our option is blaming ourselves, sitting together and solving our homegrown problems and come up with homegrown solutions. Then only we can count and talk to the rest of the world. Piracy is one of the problems, and I rightly explained it now, how it came. That boy of 27 years old with family, hopelessness, having no tools of life in his land, no opportunity, no employment, and he is not employable even. This is the main cause that causes the piracy, desperation. Piracy is an organized crime, but thousands of Somali young boys have been involved in it, whereby a very small group have orchestrated this organized crime. But the bulk of our boys, they joined them because of money, because of searching better life than the one he was living. So we need to address those root causes, and now it's finished, and we will. By putting pressure on the oceans with the forces that you have indicated, it's not enough. Today, the pirates have declined, but that does not guarantee that it will not come tomorrow again, unless we solve it in our own inside Somalia. And piracy is a problem. It's a challenge to Somalia as well as to the international trade and international community. So I said, let us clean our home, then pointed our fingers to the rest of the world. Thank you.
This lady right there, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I'd like to give a very brief comment on the conference so far. I wish that all Somali people, wherever they are, in Qatar or everywhere, would pose constructive thoughts and constructive ideas instead of dwelling in the past and bringing on destructive ideas. If we live in the past and just dwell in it, we do not move forward to a better future. So I just hope that everybody can learn from the past and hope to a better future. And Mr. President, I'd like to pose 3 questions for you. The first is about the Somali youth. Our diasporic life has caused Somali youth to be one of the most talented youth in the world. You can literally find a Somali young man or young girl who can speak any language in the world. So, what is your administration's thoughts, plans, or policies to attract these talents and to utilize them? My second question is, Mr. President, 4 different presidents have come before you, but until now, there is no tangible thing that they have achieved. While you were planning to become a president, what was your agenda? What do you want to achieve by the end of this administration that can be tangible and seen by all of us? And my last question is, I'd like to pose my invitation to you to visit us in China. I'm one of the Somali community who lives in China, works there, and studies there. What are your plans, or what are your thoughts for Chinese and Somali relations? And I hope that you plan a trip there soon so we can welcome you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Regarding the issue of the youth, I believe, as you have described it, the description you give to the Somali youth is absolutely right. Very dynamic, energetic, entrepreneurial, creative, and knowledgeable. And the future of Somalia is the youth, it's youth. Whether they are in the diaspora, or whether they are in the piracy, or whether they are in Shabab. Our future depends on our youth. It all depends how our youth, how we as a government organize them, and how they organize themselves, which many of them did now. The plans we have in place is give them an opportunity to prove their capacity, their entrepreneurial ability. And that space is making Somalia stable. Stable in terms of security, stable in terms of politics, so that the youth can exercise their talents in Somalia. That's the best plan we have in place now, and we are working on that. Regarding my vision, I have clearly indicated the beginning of new foundation, the 6-pillar policy framework as the base of what I want to achieve. These 6 pillars, at the end of them, will achieve 2 important qualities in Somalia. Number 1 is a stable Somalia. Stable in terms of security, stable in terms of politics, stable in terms of economy, and stable in terms of social cohesion, stable Somalia. And the second one is united Somalia. These two is what I'm going to see the last day I'm leaving the office. And I'm working on that track, and I'm very much hopeful that I can achieve that end. The issue of China, you rightly said, China, we have a very good relationship, historical relationship, since Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong in early 60s when we became independence. And Somalia is one of the 13 African countries the Chinese call it the old friends, those who supported China to become a member in the United Nations Security Council. And Somalia was one of them. And I have an official invitation from China to visit. And within this year, I will visit China, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to ask you one thing that we haven't actually mentioned tonight or addressed, and that's women's issues in Somalia. Is it a top priority for you and your administration? What are you doing to advance women's rights and issues?
Women in Somalia, women has a very important position in the life of Somali society. Women are the breadwinners in Somalia. The majority of Somalia, it's the women that brings a dish on the table at the end of the day. Because of the circumstances in Somalia, man was disabled because of the conflict. Man cannot cross the clan borders or where there is, the women can move around because of the culture, because of the values of the society. So they succeeded to become so in that case, we want their development, we want their role in the politics. We proved that, although our parliament did that, one thing I would like to bring is that since Somalia became an independent country, there has never been a rule, a law that segregates women at all. But there were weaknesses from the aspect of the culture. And the aspect of that's what makes the target that has been agreed, that 30% of our parliament to be a woman. That target was not achieved. And it was not because of legal barriers, but because of cultural and clan cultures in place. When we came into the office, we established a 10-member cabinet. The two most important portfolio in that 10-member cabinet is women. Our deputy prime minister, the only deputy prime minister we have, and the minister of foreign affairs is Lady Fawzia, who is with us now, sitting here with us. The minister of social affairs, who is in charge of health, education, labor, youth, women development, together, is Dr. Mariam, who is also a very prominent lady in Somalia. So this indicates the role that my government gives the women and to be the right position in place. Yes, we also said that the women has a difficult, they are facing serious challenges because of the situation, the realities on the ground. We established a task force that improves or follows the crimes or the violence against women. We want to make women play their role and remove all the obstacles in front of them. Of course, we have our own weaknesses, we have our own challenges in place, but at policy level, under my leadership, women has got a priority, and that will be seen, the political opportunity we are giving, and in terms of economy, they are the major forces that are running today the domestic economy in Somalia, and they will have a very clear and great role in the future of Somalia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We have no time, but we managed to get through a lot of topics. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And just before we go, if everyone can just stay seated for 1 second, I'd like to invite up to the stage Dr. Salah ad-Din al-Zain, who's the director of the Al Jazeera Center for Studies, for just a few closing remarks in his words. Dr. Salah.
فخامة الرئيس حسن شيخ محمود، أود في ختام هذه الليلة أن أعبر لك عن عظيم شكرنا وامتناننا وسعادتنا على تشريفكم لنا في هذه الأمسية، وعلى المحاضرة القيمة التي سلطتم من خلالها الضوء على مجمل التعقيدات والتحديات التي تواجهها حكومتكم في الصومال، وعلى رؤيتكم المستقبلية. وأنا خرجت بشيء مهم جدا، وهو أن حديثك ركزت فيه على رؤية مستقبلية متفائلة قائمة على إعادة بناء الدولة والتركيز على تلبية احتياجات المواطن. لم تصرف كثيرا من الوقت للحديث عن الصراعات السياسية التي شغلت الناس كثيرا في الصومال طوال العقدين الماضيين، وأعتقد أن هذا التطور جديد ومهم. سيادة الرئيس، أنا التقيناك قبل انتخابك للرئاسة بشهور، وكنت وقتها تحدثنا عن رؤيتك لكيفية إدخال نمط جديد للممارسة السياسية في الصومال، وأعتقد أن انتخابك قد أثبت ذلك. اليوم تحدثنا عن رؤيتك لإعادة بناء الدولة الصومالية، وكما وعدناك قبل هذه الجلسة أنه في انتظارك المرة القادمة إن شاء الله تحدثنا عما أنجزت في إطار البرنامج الذي تفضلت فيه. شكرا جزيلا لك. الذي قد لا يعرفه الحضور أن السيد الرئيس قد أخر موعد مغادرته الدوحة حتى يتيح لنا الفرصة للالتقاء به، فهذا أيضا داع آخر لنجدد لك شكرا وتقديرا على ذلك سيد الرئيس. كذلك لا يفوتني أن أحيي الوفد المرافق لفخامة السيد الرئيس، السيدة فوزية حاج آدم وزيرة الخارجية، السيد الوزير محمود حسن سليمان وزير المالية، والسيد فارح شيخ عبد القادر وزير الدولة برئاسة الجمهورية، بالإضافة إلى طاقم مكتب السيد الرئيس. كذلك أتقدم بجزيل الشكر والتقدير لكم ضيوفنا الأعزاء، السادة السفراء والخبراء والمهتمين والجالية الصومالية المشاركة معنا اليوم بحضور بكثافة. أشكركم جزيلا على تلبية الدعوة على تشريفنا في هذا المساء. سيد الرئيس، أرجو أن تسمح لي بدعوة زميلنا الدكتور مصطفى سواق مدير قناة الجزيرة لتقديم هدية رمزية، يعني تقديرا وامتنانا لهذه المشاركة الطيبة، وهي عبارة عن لوحة فنية بريشة زميلنا الفنان المبدع شجاعة علي. كذلك يعني شكرا وتقديرنا للزميلة دارين أبو غيدة على إدارتها الرائعة لهذه الجلسة. شكرا جزيلا لك. وتفضل سعادة الرئيس.
ما شاء الله. شكرا. انت محظوظ انه ما حطكش في الكاريكاتير بتاعك. ثانك يو دكتور. ثانك يو. الله يبارك. بارك الله فيك. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا. في الختام أدعوكم لتناول شيء من المرطبات في الخارج، وشكرا جزيلا، وإلى أن نراكم في ملتقى آخر إن شاء الله. شكرا لكم.